All right, we are live. So hello, everyone. This is our 3-year Booktube anniversary live show. It's myself and Sarah Jane from the Book Life.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. So we are going to wait a little bit for a few people to come in because we are going to do questions as people ask them, as well as stuff that we got asked in our videos. I'm also going to make sure that the links are out so that people can see it,
Oh,
to
yeah.
make sure that it's on Twitter and everything else for everyone. So we do have questions compiled from our videos that you guys asked, and
We're very organized.
yes, we're very organized. Okay, yeah, so this is it. So join us for
And I'll just retweet your link because I'm lazy.
Booktube. Hi, everybody. We are just getting the links out to people who might not know, and then we will get started.
And I'm going to see if the Q&A box will open for me because it's just saying opening at the moment.
Yeah. So if you are asking questions in the chat, if you guys can see the chat and we can't because I can't, then feel free to tweet us as well with like live questions. So
it just says opening.
It's technical difficulties with live shows these days. They're stupid.
Things I'm so impatient. I'll just click cancel and then try it again, even though the best thing to do is actually to just
wait.
Yeah, see, we've got group chat, but that's just going to be you and me. That's not going to get us anything.
No, it's fine.
So,
we'll figure it out.
I'll just leave this on opening because it's not like I actually need to see anything. I mean, I can see you like, tiny down there.
Right. So it's fine.
But, yeah, if it doesn't work in a couple of minutes, then I will just give up because it's just going to annoy me if it just says opening, and I'll be trying to answer a question. I'll be like,
it's not there.
Yeah, but tweeting us will be fine because I've got my phone and I've got like Twitter open on a tab, so we'll see it.
Awesome. Yeah.
So
okay. What questions do we want to start with? I think we discussed this before over the last week or so. Well, not week because we haven't been planning this for a week, but we've discussed this the last couple of days, and we're going to keep recommendations to a minimum unless they're very specific. So we've gotten a few questions that were like, what's your favorite book? And we're like, guys, you know our favorite books.
And I feel like it would just be so boring.
It would just be our channels. Like, that's what we do on our channels all the time. So we're like, we probably shouldn't do that. So if you guys ask that, we're sorry, but also like watch our videos. You'll probably get the answers there.
Yeah, and maybe if you want to ask us a question about books, try and make it kind of about us and books, like something like have you ever recommended each other a book that the other one hasn't liked or something like that, where it's kind of it makes sense for us to answer it together. Whereas I think if it's a bookish question and we can answer it separately, then we'd probably just do that in a general like Q&A.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we'll still answer that, like some of them like that. But as a general, like we got a few like, what's your favorite book? And we're like, everyone knows.
Yeah, and they're probably sick of it.
Right. So it's fine.
Okay, chat's not opening for me. I'm giving up. It's annoying me. I just keep staring at the little color. So everyone tweet us because
tweet us because we can't see it unless one of us can open up the YouTube page, and then maybe. But I have the questions from my video up. So yeah. Shall we begin?
Yes.
Do you have any that you want to start with? Was there any that you saw that you like want to jump on immediately?
No, let's go yours first.
Okay, so the first one that just at the top of my page is, what themes do you think aren't discussed or explored enough in books and literature? And are there any themes or topics that you think are taboo and should be written about more?
Start us. Ease us in, why don't you, Sam? Just ease us in.
Right. Yep. Just kind of.
Yeah. Just push me
it's one of the highest voted ones. So, yeah. I think. Overall, I think we're getting a lot better. So it's hard for me to say like, oh, there's a certain theme that is never explored, because I feel like if you are looking for a certain theme, then you're going to seek those books out. So it's kind of like they're there. Are they the most popular books necessarily? No. It just depends on what the, I guess, in-trend themes are right now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't really think of any that are like, oh man, I wish this would be discussed more as far as a theme. Because I feel like you can find anything. It's just a matter of what's getting the most hype, as far as really popular books on Booktube. Like,
And maybe that needs to be addressed more. Like maybe the question is actually, you know, what books would you like to see people talk about more? Like what themes would you like? Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah, maybe that's more of a
I think, like you say, if you go looking for it, it probably does exist. I think for me, I'd probably say that I want to see more fantasy books with sick or disabled characters.
We talk about
That's
this
what I
all the
would see.
time.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. This is just like our typical conversations. But I think the problem is that maybe it's part of the taboo thing. I think a lot of the time authors are quite scared to bring on illness or disability and also then connect magic to it or
Right.
fantasy, because then it's like, are you downplaying it? Are you saying that it could also be, you know, a good thing and all this sort of stuff? And I think
Right.
it can be quite difficult to incorporate that in a world that's not our own, because
Mm-hmm.
I think it can sometimes go very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need more characters like Kaz, you know, because
Yeah.
we like Crooked Kingdom. We need characters that have these sort of disabilities, but it's not part of their story. It's just part of who they are. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what I'd like to see more. I'd like to see more disabled and sick characters, not where it's a massive, massive part, where it is just a part of them as much as anything else. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what I'd like to see more, but I don't think it's really taboo, and I think it is happening. I think it's just a case of, you know, a few more years' time, it will be quite normal.
Right. It's kind of like what are they focusing on right now? And they don't
Yeah,
think they've gotten quite to disability yet in like the
no.
grand scheme of things. Yeah, we've talked about this a lot where we really just want to see, I think especially, yeah, like sick characters in fantasy and sci-fi without them being magically cured.
Yes,
Because
yes.
that happened. We see sick characters and then they get cured by magic, and you're like, cool, we don't have magic, you know, like especially
Yeah.
after I was sick. I know we talked about how like I really wanted to see a character that kind of had the fantasy version of cancer. Like I
Mm,
really wanted like, or even got better but was having ramifications of it. Like those kinds of things aren't discussed even really in contemporary. Like
mm,
contemporary, especially cancer, we've talked about this before, is like not mentioned unless they're the tragic sick parent that's dying, or they're the person that's dying and or their friend dies or whatever. And it's never like survivorship after disease either, or survivorship with
mm,
disease. So I think those kinds of things would be really good
mm.
themes, and I don't think that I haven't seen a ton of them yet.
No, and I don't want to see it where it's, you know, the sick person is the plot point for the able-bodied person, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there's some books that I like that follow that theme, but I'm still sick of it. Even if I like a book that's got that theme, I'm still sick of it. I want to see these characters, you know, have their own story arc
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes I think I think what I'd like to see the most is I'd like to see a character who is sick and perhaps doesn't get better, but just lives with it, and
Right.
you see, because that's the reality for so many people, you know. And I think, not that I want to be like, oh, I'm doing this, but it was funny because when I'm writing my book, I was like, there's something missing, and then I realized that I can do this, I can put this in my own work, and so I've done that, and now I'm so happy. And it is kind of like, I mean, I'm just referring it to magical ME, that's what I'm calling it, but it is a side character, it's not a main character, but I like that she's going to have to deal with these symptoms, and, you know, while stuff's going on, like in real life, like we always have to deal with. So i think I think that's what I want to see, but it's like what everybody says, you know, you want to see something if you can write it, and I think that's what I'm going to try and do, you know. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I want to see, so I'm going to make it happen. But I think it is going to happen. I think we are going to start seeing more sick and disabled characters in fantasy. I just think those stories are probably being written right now,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I think when something like Crooked Kingdom is so popular, it's going to inspire more characters like that. So hopefully that will happen. But as far as everything else, I think most things are there. It's just perhaps they need to be talked about more
Mm-hmm.
rather
Yeah.
than they need to be written. They
Yeah.
probably
It's
exist.
whatever your, and again, not every theme is a big like huge social justice-y type theme. You know,
Yeah.
there's just other themes too, and it's like you're gonna kind of seek out people that read about that stuff anyway. Like a lot of people I follow, a theme slash trope, for example, that I really like is like found families. I follow a lot of people that read those kinds of stories, that like those kinds of things, that will point out when those things are there.
Mm.
The same thing I think is true if people are looking for a lot of like diversity, and that's just what they like. They only want to read about, you know, people in other countries, so they'll follow people who read more of those books. Like
Mm.
it's just you find the people that are going to give you the recommendations that you want with those things that you're seeking. And if you're watching people who aren't recommending the stuff that you like, maybe you should watch different people.
Yeah. And
Like,
also, it's our responsibility. Like, if we want to see different things out there, we've got to show that we want those things. It's about creating the demand. So, you know, because diversity is now such a big theme, that's great, because that tells publishers that's what we want. Whereas if we as booktubers and reviewers only review the, then we're saying that's all we want. So I think it's just one of those things that it's everyone's responsibility to kind of encourage those different stories. And the fact is that, like you say, they probably are out there, and if you can't find them, try and find people who do, who are aware of them. I mean, I get a lot of people say to me, oh, what books do you recommend with main characters with disabilities? And I have to go, I'm looking as much as you are, and I know they're out there. I just can't find them yet. And when I do, I'll talk about them. But as of yet, I haven't got them.
Right. Maybe a couple of years down the road we'll have more.
Maybe we'll talk about this in like 2 years' time. We'll be like, do you remember that time that we said there wasn't enough books about disability
and
it's
illness? Just all of them are there. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
I hope that happens. Oh,
we
man.
have got one question on Twitter. I've just seen.
Oh, sure. Pull that up if.
We got a question from Lily, and she says, happy anniversary, guys. Have you ever buddy read something and not had a similar opinion? I don't think we have. I know so. I think every time we've buddy read something, we felt exactly the same, because we both hated A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Right.
And we both liked A Court of Mist and Fury, although you liked it slightly more than I did, but we still had the same opinion.
We're usually around the same, like, even if one of us gives it 3 and one of us gives it 4, or 4 and 5, like, it's usually like, it's not like one of us has hated it and the other one's loved it, because those are the hardest kind of buddy reads, man.
We haven't done buddy reads, but there have been books though that we've had quite polar opposite opinions on, though. Right. Because think of what is it, Queen of the Tearling, and you loved it, and I was like, I hate that book. And in your video, you're like, if you don't like this, I don't see how you don't like it. And I was like, I don't like it.
But we weren't reading at the same time, because that's a different buddy read when you're disagreeing.
Yeah,
I'm fine with disagreement, but I like disagreeing kind of after the fact.
Yeah.
Because I think disagreeing when you're reading a book can be really hard and kind of ruin the book for you. Like, it can, like, for me, it can, if I'm loving a book and someone else is hating it and ripping it apart while you're reading it, I'm like, and it's not so much that they're affecting my opinion, but like, they start pointing out all these little things and I start being like focusing on them more than I would if I was reading it by myself. And it can really pull down a book.
If we buddy read something, whether it's just us buddy reading it or whether we're reading it for a read along, typically we pick a book that we're pretty sure we're going to like, whether it's just you and me reading a book casually, or it was you, me and Kristen, like before. We pick a book that we were all interested in reading and pick a book that we think all 3 of us would have liked. So it hasn't really happened because we try to not have it happen, because ultimately we don't want it to happen, do we? We don't actually want to disagree on it. So no, it hasn't happened yet, and hopefully it won't.
Hopefully it won't. I mean, I really the Grisha trilogy we all were reading and loving, like everything was just, we could rant or rave together.
Kind of, like a bit blah on, like, when we read The Forbidden Wish, we were like, that was all right. It wasn't anything.
It was good,
but we've been the same. I think the only, actually, there was one that we were slightly different on, because I've just seen it in your background. We read Since You've Been Gone, and I wasn't as keen on it. Actually.
Right, and I thought it was cute.
Yeah, but again, it wasn't like polar opposites. It was just kind of, I wasn't that into it.
Right.
But no, it hasn't really happened, and I think it's fun though when you've got the same opinions, because I don't mind if I dislike a book if like you guys didn't like it either, because then we can just kind of moan about it together. But typically, when you do a buddy read, you pick books that you think you're gonna like, don't you? You want it to be an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, and you better read with people that have similar taste to you, because obviously then you're both wanting to read it, and that's why it's hard for me to do buddy reads with people that I don't know very well, because I'm always like, how's this gonna go?
We haven't buddy read something in a long time. This has made me realize.
Well, because we also have like we went from being like reading all the time to like we both don't have time. So like we each read like I read maybe 4 books, 4 to 5 a month now. And I used to read like 17.
Yeah, and I probably still read only like 3.
So it's just like we really don't even have time to buddy read together, because we're like, well,
I think now we realise that it has to be something that we're really excited about as well. It's probably going to be a new release where we're both like, oh my god, this looks so great, let's read it together. I don't think we're going to go, oh, do you fancy doing a buddy read just for
this random,
so hopefully something will come out that we'll get really excited about, and then we can do that, because that was so fun.
It was. I know, and it's been a really long time since, this is going on a tangent that nobody asked us about, but oh well. It's been a while since I've had a book, like a new release, that I'm like super excited about.
Yeah.
Like that I'm just like real jazzed. Yeah, I'm always like, oh, this sounds good. Like I'll probably read this. It sounds pretty good. But I haven't been like, yes, about
I think that was
anything.
in the I did the mid-year book freakout tag. And it's like, what releases you're excited about? And I was like, nothing.
There's
Nothing.
stuff I want to read, but I'm not like I haven't pre-ordered anything. Besides, the only pre-order I did was Act of War because I didn't want to get spoiled for it. But it wasn't like I
I did a
wanted to
pre-order for
immediately
that,
read it.
and then I cancelled it, and then they sent me it anyway, and I was like, well,
Well, thank you.
yeah. And I was like, I'm not paying for this. And they went, well, we haven't actually paid for it anyway. And I was like, then thank you very much. But yeah, I pre-ordered that, and I pre-ordered something else, but then I cancelled it. So yeah, I don't really pre-order stuff now because I think I used to, and then it arrives. And you're like,
And
yay,
it
I've
sits
got
there.
it. But then you don't read it. So I
Yep.
think now that you've got things like Amazon Prime, I'd rather just wait until I want it and then go, right, it'll be here tomorrow and I'll start it tomorrow.
Right.
It's just, I think maybe this is like the 3-year thing, you start to calm down,
Yeah.
and I feel like we've calmed down a lot.
Definitely. So I was actually, if any of you follow me on Snapchat, I was culling my bookshelves at 4 o'clock in the morning this morning because I was like, I'm sick of this. And when I first started Booktube, this is a nice like juxtaposition. I think even if you go back and watch our first anniversary video, we might have talked about it, where I just wanted this giant collection. I wanted as many books as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I was okay with having books that I was probably going to feel mediocre about. All this stuff. If I heard about it, I'd probably buy it. Book Outlet was like the bane of my existence. And yeah, and it was just like I had all these books. And now I'm like, I'm not going to read these. I'm not going to read these. Like these are books but then I feel bad because I'm like, I used to want to read them. So maybe I should keep them. But it's like, no, like you barely have time to read during the month. You're not going to get to these in any kind of quick manner whatsoever. Get rid of them. So around me, I have stacks of things. There's a couple maybe piles, but mostly it's like, get rid of it.
I think as much as I think, like, especially you and me, we're very, we don't feel the need to impress and all that stuff. We've always been that way. Yeah. But I think there is this kind of undertone of that you still get caught up in the excitement of buying lots of books. So it wasn't that I felt that, I need to own more books to be considered worthy or anything like that. I just got caught up. I can justify anything, and I'll be like, oh, I want that it could be as simple as I want that in my background. Mm-hmm. Because I want to show I've got those books because they were my favorite, and I may have read them on Kindle in 2013, but I want you guys to watch my video and go, oh, look at that there. And that was my problem. I remember my first, in fact, what I think would be a fun video to do, because I didn't want to do reactions to my first videos because I'm just too embarrassed, is the honest answer. But I think what I might do is go back and look at my very first book haul and see the fate of those books. That would be so fun. Go back, watch it as kind of like a reaction video, be like, have I read that? Did I give that away? And just see the fate of your first book haul. And I think that'd be really fun. Mm-hmm. I think we both do that. I think that's more fun than even watching the first video, because everyone knows the first video is awkward, like it's supposed to be. So kind of picking apart your first video and being all embarrassed is kind of like, well, you were a little BB and you grew and now you're comfortable with your channel. Like that's not a bad thing. And I feel like then you're telling people that your first video is going to be bad, and maybe it's not going to be the greatest thing. But I think on the one hand, when I'm encouraging people to start their own channels, and then I'm like, look at me,
look at how stupid.
Yeah, exactly. So I think no, I think the best thing to do is actually to go back and look at something that I filmed and be like, what is the fate of those books? I think it would be really interesting, because I think I bought 24 books or something. And the funny thing was, I've just remembered I bought the Fever series and one book didn't match. And I was like, oh, I'll show it to you guys when I get the matching one. I got the matching one last month.
That's hilarious.
Because Sean bought it for me and she brought it down and she was like, I know this will make you so happy, and I nearly cried.
That's so funny.
It made me want to watch that. So I think we should both do that.
I think we should too.
Funny, yeah.
I should definitely, especially because I just did an unhaul of a bunch of books too, so it'll be interesting to be like, oh, I just unhauled this. Like, I've had it sitting on my shelf not being read. Although the one book like I am keeping, so Strands of Bronze and Gold was my first ever book review on my channel, and I'm keeping it even though it was like a 3-star, because I'm like, this was my first like review.
I don't know what mine was.
That was my first video, was a review of this book.
I think my first book that I reviewed was probably, I think it might have been If I Stay by Gail Forman. I don't know why I remember that. Yeah. I was like, see, getting swept up. I've just read a question that we've got, and it says, thoughts on people reviewing / rating books on Goodreads before reading the book?
That's not a simple answer.
It's not.
So Generally speaking, okay, so if we're looking at it from the book doesn't have any existing issues that people are speaking out about. They're just rating it because they're excited or they're not excited or whatever. I don't like that. Like, if the next Cassandra Clare book gets announced and people start rating it just because they love Cassandra Clare, like, I don't like that. Please don't do that. That's so annoying. Or just, I'm so excited, 5 stars. I don't like that. But I do understand the rating something because you're trying to speak out about it. You know, I haven't read this, but it has horrible representation, so I'm going to rate it, whatever. I understand it. I don't personally do it, and I don't know if I'd advocate doing it, but I understand where that comes from, and I don't necessarily like condemn that behavior. I just don't necessarily think it's helpful either. It's kind of like it's almost like there needs to be another kind of system to speak out about that, because the rating thing doesn't really work, because it's like, okay, well, ultimately you haven't read it. So like, are you hearing something from somebody that was taken out of context? Like, because that's how these kind of discussions start, and like steamroll, where people are saying things and it's like, well, you actually haven't read, like, you actually can't defend what you're doing because you're using somebody else's argument. Like, that's not an educated discussion in that point. I understand why it happens. I get the anger. I get all that. Like, I get it. But I feel like there needs to be another thing where you can discuss stuff
I think so,
in a different way.
I think so, because I think, you know, the saying, like, even bad press is good press. I think sometimes if people keep down rating books, it becomes a topic, and then that book actually probably gets more press and more people talking about it. And okay, sometimes you do need to talk about the things that are problematic or damaging, but doing it before the book comes out actually, I think sometimes
builds hype for it.
It builds hype, and actually it's probably better, even if, although I understand it, like you say, there are some examples where I get it, even though I wouldn't do it myself. I think the best thing somebody can do is to film or write a review, whether you're a reviewer or not. You know, if you're someone who's not reviewing books but you have something to say about this book, wait till it comes out and then put a full review, because actually that's when people will be reading it. Whereas if people downstar it really, really early, then it almost becomes dismissed. People go, oh yeah, but people were downstarring it before it even came out, so don't pay attention to that. So I think it almost can lessen what you're trying to do, even if you're trying to do it with the best of intentions. So, and I think as well, from like a writer perspective, I haven't even got book number 1 out yet, so I can't possibly, you know, talk about it like that. But in my head, if I get one book out and I'm lucky enough that people really, really enjoy it, I don't want people to upstar something that I haven't brought out yet, because I want people to love it because I've done a good job. And I expect most authors probably feel the same way. Although they're very happy for your support, they probably would rather that you gave it 5 stars because you loved what they wrote and you liked the work that they put in. So I think it's one of those things that I almost wish you couldn't do it until the book was out. You know, I always wish it wasn't possible. Like, you know, if it said you can't give this book a rating yet unless you've, you know, because even if you've like reviewed the book, you could still write up that review on Word or whatever and then paste it in on the release day.
Or even like, this will hold until release day.
Yeah, that'd be
the pre-reviews would go up like, vroom. I mean, you could still put up videos, you could still put up blog posts, but like Goodreads wouldn't have it. Well, although Goodreads
that is exactly what I wish they would do.
But they would never. No. But it would just be like, you know, all on the day. That would be better in my opinion. But they won't, because they hate us. So
but that's how I feel about that. Pretty the same, which isn't really a surprise, is it?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why we're here for 3 years.
That's why we're friends.
I can do another one from ours. We were really doing like the heavy hitters for the most part. So, do you feel like when popular booktubers do sponsored reviews, they tend to be afraid to talk honestly? We both hate these kinds of questions. So it's, I know that it's coming. We've talked about this before. We know it's coming from a place of probably lack of understanding, but it also has a tinge of like judgment. There's a lot of things to uncover with this kind of like sponsored thing. And it all boils down to, do you trust the reviewer, whether they're paid to do the review or not? Because it's the same thing. If you think they're untrustworthy, then you're going to think they're untrustworthy whether they're paid or not. Like,
and this is what we've always said. We've had this conversation so many times, completely organically, not because of this question, but because we've just talked about it. And I think you know, you choose, no one forces you to watch anyone, you know, you choose who you want to watch, you find their videos, you enjoy them, and you start to learn the kind of things that they like, the kinds of things that they don't like, and ultimately you build trust with that person. And if you don't trust them, then you shouldn't trust them regardless, because there are many reasons why somebody could actually not tell you the truth. You know, it could be that this book was, you know, a gift and they didn't want to offend someone's opinion. It could be that they bought this book, but they're really hoping that actually, even though they didn't like it, they might get a review of a release of the next book early. There's so many reasons why somebody could potentially not tell you the truth, and it doesn't begin and end with whether they're being paid for it.
Right.
And I think ultimately, yeah, you decide who you trust, and you either trust them or you don't. And for me, it kind of goes a little bit deeper as well, because I get quite frustrated when we kind of, and I know people don't mean to, but sometimes by suggesting that the review is less worth if they're being paid or whatever, it kind of sets a tone of, is that person's content only valued if they're doing it for free? And then that sets that tone about, you know, creativity, and how, you know, like when people say you can do this for exposure, and people kind of have to go, well, actually, I deserve to be paid. And I think there's no shame in saying I deserve to be paid, actually, because it's just saying, you know, you deserve this for your time and the effort that you put in. I mean, I think I've done 2 sponsored videos in my whole time, so it's not a lot. But I know for each one I put so much work into it, and it was just really, really nice to get that thank you back, rather than me feel like I've put in so much work, not for nothing. But it's nice to have that kind of, I don't know what the word is, just that, to feel that you're being valued.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if we start saying that people's content is only valued because they're free, I don't really like what that suggests. And I think as well, I want to be happy. Like when I see one of my, whether they're a friend or whether they're someone that I just watch and I like their content, if I see they've done a sponsored video and they've worked really hard on it, I'm really happy for them, because I think, oh, go you. You're getting money for doing something that you love. And I think that's so great, because that's such a rarity in the creative industry. Whatever you do, it's so rare to actually get something back for, you know, doing that sort of creative work. So it doesn't bother me, because if I trust somebody's videos and I trust their voice, I trust their judgment, then it doesn't make any difference to me whether they're sponsored or not.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And again, I don't do a lot of sponsored videos. I think I've maybe done 5, maybe in the total of my channel. I don't know. Someone will probably go back and count, be like, it was actually 6.
Yeah.
But like, here's the thing too, that kind of that question kind of hinted at, just so everyone knows, it's not as though publishers, if you give a book a bad review, suddenly never send you books ever again.
Yeah.
Like, that is so not true. And if people think that it's true, then they're like, if a booktuber who's working with publishers and has been for a while, they're not going to think that's true either, because they know it's not true. Like, there's books that I've slammed and I've still gotten, you know, books sent to me.
Because bad press is still press.
Because bad press is still press, and people and publishers understand that you're not going to like everything. Like, publishers are readers too, for the most part, I'm pretty sure, always. So they understand that you're not going to like everything. So as long as you're not like dragging the author through the mud or being really shitty, like that would be a case.
It's fine.
Yeah, as long as you're not like attacking anybody, then it's fine. But like saying, hey, I didn't like this. I've done a sponsored review on saying like, hey, I didn't like this. Like, this is and I think the whole thing is like, oh, if somebody rates something high and it's sponsored, then they're lying. No.
It just again comes down to how much you trust that person.
Yeah, like maybe some people are, but like it is, how much do you trust them? Like, do you think that they always gloss over? Do you think they always rate stuff high? Like, what do you look at all the other stuff? And if you don't trust that, then you're not going to trust them sponsored. And if you trust everything else, then them being paid maybe a couple $100 for a review, because it's not like you're getting paid a super ton. I mean, only speaking for myself. Maybe some people get paid thousands of dollars. I don't get that impression whatsoever.
No, I don't. And I think as well, like, you learn that people's sponsored videos are very in line with the kind of content that they create anyway, or in line with the stuff that they would review anyway.
Right.
You know, I mean, I did a video for 3 Dark Crowns, and I'd actually just read the book and I loved it. And then I heard about this thing that was going around. It was like, oh, you have to make a video talking about which queen you would pick to represent. And I was like, well, I love all of them, so I don't care who I got. And that was completely the truth, because obviously, as you know, I love morally grey characters and stuff, so it didn't matter to me which one I got, because there was always something good about each one, because they're good characters, so it didn't matter who I got. And so it wasn't like, oh, I got, paid a little bit to talk about them, so I don't care which one it was I genuinely don't mind. And if I really didn't like that book, I would not have done it, because I wouldn't enjoy it.
And it's a lot of work. Like, it's not like people are like, oh, videos are like so easy. Like, guys, they're not. Like, if everyone could make videos, they would. And there's people that do and people that don't. But like, it's still like work. Even if you like doing it, it's still something that takes time out of your day. It's still something that takes time away from your other hobbies. It takes time away from reading. Like, it's a thing. So it's not like people want to be toiling over something that's not fun. Reading a book that they don't like,
it's not
just
worth
to
it.
review. It's not. No,
because if you read the book and you love it, and then you get given an opportunity on top of that, it's like, great, I was going to talk about this anyway, and now I've actually got a little bit of money where if I want to buy a prop for this video or whatever, you can, and it's great. Whereas if I'm like, I've got to read this book, spend several hours reading it, then I've got to review it, then I've got to film this video, which I'm not going to enjoy filming, edit it, all this stuff, it literally isn't worth it. It's only worth it as like a icing on top of the cake situation. Right. That's the only way that it's worth it. And yet again, I've already done a food analogy.
As you do.
That's my thing.
So funny. But yeah, so that's pretty much our thoughts on sponsored content.
But yeah, that's something that we talk about a lot.
All the time.
It's
just one of those, like, again, like we've said, it's why aren't people deserve to be paid for their art? Whether you think video making is an art or not, it is a creative, venture. And why do you feel that people shouldn't be paid for their work? Like,
you know what? It actually stops creators being exploited as well. It actually stops creators being exploited. It stops them being manipulated. It stops them being taken advantage of. So there's pros and cons to everything, but I like to think that they exist so that creators can say, well, actually, I'm doing this work for you. I deserve a little something. And I think that that's true. I think if actually it wasn't allowed, think of how many creators that, you would be watching that actually would be doing this stuff, but they weren't allowed to, or perhaps even if someone felt that they couldn't do a sponsored video because they were so worried that people would turn on them, so they don't accept the money and they do it for nothing. And it's like, I wouldn't like someone that I liked watching to do that. I'd want them to go, you know what, I'm good at this, I work really hard and I deserve to be paid. And
and I'd
give them a high five.
And it's just something I'd read anyway. Like it's
and I've just put my foot in the bin.
Oh, no. Are there any more Twitter questions before we move on to another one?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll check mine really quick too, just to be sure.
It's really hot in this room and it's like 20 to 9.
Oh, this is an interesting one. Thoughts on authors reviving finished series like the new Shatter Me books, The Becoming of Noah Shaw,
Okay.
We have vaguely talked about this with Shatter Me, and I know, like, didn't Cassandra Clare like start up Mortal Instruments again after it was like finished? I don't know if you read that back then.
That didn't affect me because, well, it didn't because I was annoyed at the time because I read the 4th one and I felt, what's the point?
Right.
And then it all knitted together and I understood why, but I wasn't part of the hype. It was kind of, they already existed, so it was kind of silly to feel a certain way about it. I think it really depends on the individual series.
It so does. And it is such a cop-out kind of thing, but it's also like, it does. Like, if you felt like there was extra story to be told, then that's one thing. So I, for example, Whitney, don't kill me, not that excited about the new Shatter Me's. Am I going to read them? Yes. But I was like totally fine not having an epilogue. I was totally fine not having anything else from the Shatter Me world. I was fine.
And I wasn't.
Yeah. So
I was
you're like,
so annoyed.
Lord.
Do you remember I read the 3rd book and I was like, this is not how it ends. This is not an ending to me. And I was so angry and I felt that I really needed an epilogue and I really wasn't happy. I don't know if I still think there should be a lot more, because it depends. I think, again, it's one of the situations that you can't really judge it until they come out, because what if it's a situation where, because at the end of the day, obviously publishing's a business. So like she may have sold 3 books, but in her head it was always going to be so much more, and she had to tie it off in a certain way in case it never got picked up. And now that it has, she can explore that. We're never going to know if that's it or if it's, well, these were really popular, do you want to write more?
Right.
We're never going to know. I mean, Rachel Vincent, and I know you've only read the first 2 books, but in the Shifter series, everyone wanted more for so long. And she's actually written a spin-off series, but she self-published it because she's like, actually publishers aren't interested in this because it's done, but you guys want it. It's been slowly ticking over in the back of my head what would have happened, and actually all these years later I've thought of a story and now I can't stop thinking about it. And so she's released 2 books now, and she said, you know, this is for you guys because I know you want it and because I found that there's stories to tell. But years before that, a lot of people kept saying to her, here's an idea of what could happen, and she was like, guys, it's not that I can't think of us like stories,
Right.
it's that the story's done. And she said, and if that changes I'll write it, but at the moment it's done. So it just has to be coming from like an organic place.
Yeah.
You know, and I think as long as it's doing that, it's okay.
But
and if you don't
know, like you can't tell. Like we can always speculate, like, oh, there's gonna be some people that think that the Shatter Me, the new ones, are like great and totally warranted, and some people are gonna be like, she should have never done this, and we're never gonna know like what the reasoning was, like you said. So
yep.
And you can't know until you see it. My concern with Shatter Me and with a lot of these other books is that they are going to like drudge up drama because to continue the storylines, because especially with Shatter Me, the drama is so romantically motivated that it's like, please don't break up the main, like, I need to
if a character arc has literally done its journey, what do you do? Whereas I think if you know, a character has reached a certain point where they have had their happily ever after or not, whatever, if they've reached that point of like, because they say it's like the equilibrium, isn't it, you know, if they've reached that new normal, what can you do after that? Because do you really want to take them back to then bring them back around to that place? They have to end up somewhere new. They can't just take a step back and then end up back where we left them anyway. You know, so I think if the characters can go on a new journey and end up in a different place, like mentally, great. But if it's just take a step back and then end up back at the same place again and just have, you know, a fallout or miscommunication or something like that, that's what's really going to bug me, you know. And I think sometimes it's nice with these series when they go to new characters. That's why sometimes I'm not totally against that, because that story's done but the world still exists.
Like the world having more stories I think is perfectly valid. But I feel like sometimes when characters, you know, like I'm thinking of, and I haven't really read the series, I only read the first book. This is a contemporary series. The Jenny Han, P.S. I Still Love You, or To All the Boys I Loved Before. I remember like that kept getting kind of
I've read
continued.
The first 2.
Yeah, well apparently things like get shifted up again in the 3rd book, and it's kind of like there's only so much you can do with those characters, and this like those are romance.
I'm not reading
books.
the 3rd one for that reason, because I felt like the first one ended in such an abrupt way. Actually, it just needed to be a fraction longer and then the story would have been done, you know. So I think sometimes it's not even about bringing books back for more. It could be said even for existing trilogies,
right?
You know, it's all about what story needs to be told, and if that story has already been told, I think it should be left alone. But if there's more story to tell that maybe we don't even realize, then that's good, because at the end of the day, that's what a good writer would do. They'd make you think it was all tied off neatly, but actually maybe in the back of their minds they always wanted to bring it back.
Right.
But we'll just have to wait and see, and maybe that will be something that we'll do as like a buddy read.
Right. Oh, I'm sure, because that's something that we
didn't buddy read them. We just both read them really close together.
Right. And loved them. So
it would be interesting, and it'll also be interesting to see if there's a time jump. You know, are they going to be older?
I feel like but I feel like not that much older.
I think maybe
a year. Sounds of the synopsis, it didn't sound like it was that, like, you know, things had just taken off kind of thing. So
I think it's going to explore with Shatter Me. I think it's going to explore the world more, you know, because I think we didn't get that, and obviously we know a TV series is coming, and so it could even be that it was, you know, what's the setup here? What's the setup here when they're talking to her, and she's like, oh, it's this, and then actually that starts sparking new conflicts and new things like that. So it could actually be something like that. But I'd like, if I'm being honest, I would like to see more from the world, because I feel like we didn't get enough of that. And so it
was a romance series, basically.
Which is fine. I liked it for what it was, but if it's coming back, I don't just want that romance again, because it's not enough.
Right.
We need more.
Exactly. So we have another Twitter question, is what books do you want the other to read that they haven't yet? Which I can't, like, I'm trying to think of books. Like, I know there's books that I've read that I've liked and that I want you to read, but I can't, like, remember which ones you haven't read.
I know one, because you bought it for me.
Which one? I have a bad memory.
You bought me
Oh my
Uprooted, but I
gosh.
haven't read it. You
That's
bought
right.
me Falling Kingdoms, and I haven't read it.
All these books that I like demand Sarah Jane read, and then she
Yep.
just sits on them. Uprooted is a top priority. Okay.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. And you bought me that for my birthday last year.
oops.
I know. And I still have Falling Kingdom. So I think it's probably more your end than my end, because you've actually got me these books.
Right. To be like, please read this.
Yeah, and I haven't yet. I don't think there's any that I really, really want you to read, because I think when you know someone so well, I know how you're going to feel about them.
Right.
It's not like there's a book where I'm like, I love this so much, I really want you to read it. The only book I ever felt like that for was Stray, and you have read it.
Right.
But things like, say, the Fever series, I know that if you read that first book, I know exactly what you'd say. Like, literally, I'm so sure of it. It could even be like a challenge. I know you'd love some aspects of it, and I know you'd hate some aspects of it.
That's pretty much how I feel like I'm going to be about it when I read it.
Yeah, so it's like, there's nothing that I've really read and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is such a Sam book.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I haven't read a book that I've thought, oh my God, this would be perfect, I really, really wish you'd read it. It's more like, can you read this because I need someone to like bitch about it with or something. But I need to read Falling Kingdoms and I need to read Uprooted. And I think every time I go to pick up Uprooted, something else takes priority. But actually, I'm really, really not in the mood for series at the moment. I don't want to start a new series, and I'm not in the mood to carry on any series. So I think I've got Yauk and Comic-Con, and I've got to read some books for that because the authors are going to be there.
Yeah.
But I think after that, I'm going to have to read Uprooted, because I know, I think I wanted it so much. And there's a vlog of that day because you sent it to me the day Sean from Reader's Rambles came to visit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm vlogging and I'm like, oh, I've got a parcel. I think this is from Sam. I like open it and I'm like, oh my God, I want to read this so much. And now it's like July 2017.
I mean,
And it was January. Yeah.
Like, this is what happens. I feel like another one that I really would like you to read, I think we've talked about it before, is like, since we both love urban fantasy, it was like our original love, is like my original love in urban fantasy was the Anita Blake series. And I wanted you to like read.
I read the first one, though,
right?
didn't I?
Right, but the first one like doesn't.
And I was so like, it's okay, you know.
Right.
You're like, yeah, but read more.
Right. Well, because I feel like it doesn't get its stride until like book 3 or 4. So I feel like it'd be interesting. Like it would actually be really fun if I started reading the Fever series while you were reading that, and then we could like.
Say this once. I'm getting.
I think we did. I think we talked about talking
to film a challenge where we read like a good chunk of the books of each other's favorite urban fantasy, and then did a video about it. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we said this when I was reading the book.
Probably.
I remember it. Yeah. See, we're getting loads of video ideas, so I think people need to.
We need to write comments down, actually.
Yeah, and I think people need to leave comments and tell us which of these things that we're talking about that you'd like the most. You know, do you want us to do that? And I think they will be held accountable. But that would be really funny. And I think people would be like, "Oh my God, Sarah J is going to be so upset if Sam hates barons." And I'll be like, "No."
Sam might hate barons.
It's like it's fine.
I'm just on a roll with like feeling meh about people's favorite characters. So it's
it is that hype thing. It is that hype thing. And I found that series, I'm so okay with saying I found that series when I didn't even know urban fantasy existed.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be in such a different place right now. I think I'd still love it, but I would definitely see issues. So I can't expect somebody else to have the same experience as me when I read it at a completely different time in my life. Mm-hmm. So it's, but yeah, I think we should do that. I think you should read the Fever series and I should read like the 6 books in the Fever series, which I know is a lot, like, before it all starts going weird, and let's not even go there.
Right.
There's like six core books, I like to say. So I should read like 6 Anita Blake books. Right. Or maybe like the first 3 or something like that. And then we can kind of discuss it and see how we felt about it. And I think that would be really, really funny.
Yeah. What's funny is I think books 3 to like 9 of Anita Blake are like the best. Like, so that's kind of like you have to get through like 1, 2, 3. So well, you don't have to get through, but like they start hitting their stride with like all the like personal relationship stuff.
So maybe like 6 then. On. So the first 6 books in the Fever series and then 6 books. Although maybe I'll get to 7 because I've already read one.
Right.
I don't want an easy ride. I don't want to start. But yeah, I think that's what we should do. And if people think they want us to do that, let us know, because I actually think it'd be a really funny challenge.
Right.
And I don't think many people have done that.
I don't know when we'd have time either. Although like urban fantasy is so easy to just like inhale, even if you're hating it. It's just like it's just like yeah. But it's still like really easy to get through even just one of those mass market paperbacks.
Maybe we should say we'll do it for this time next year, and then we've got a whole year.
There we go. That's probably a good idea. Although I do want to finish the Shifter series too, because I actually own those.
Yeah.
So,
And you would really like them the further that they go on. That's very
I haven't gotten over that bump. It's been over a year since I read the second one, and just been like, no. I'm like still mad about it. I've been warming up to it lately though, so it might happen like over the summer sometime.
I hope so, because I know that second book wasn't great, but it is just so great overall. And you loved the first one so much. It was literally like
it was 5 and then it was 2.
Yeah, I remember.
It's so sad.
It is.
So another question we have was one that I feel like it's 2 parts, but I feel like we're only going to answer the second part. They said tips for new channels as their first part of the question.
Okay.
Which I hate to kind of be like this, but it's kind of like we're going to say all the things that everyone always says. Like there's really just do it and like make connections in the community, like by commenting on people's videos, and make the kind of content that you like making. Like that's it. And all like the technical stuff you can find videos about, like, oh, how do you make, your thumbnail? What kind of camera should I buy? And blah, blah, blah. But like ultimately just make whatever videos you want to make. And yeah. But then the second part, which we can get a little bit further into, is like, how do you deal with the disappointment of being unsuccessful, I think was the wording, although it just, how to deal with disappointment if you feel unsuccessful. Which we've also discussed. It's just funny because a lot of these topics we've talked about before, and especially
this one we've discussed because we both created our channels literally within, I think, a day of each other. Like I know the 3rd of July is my day. I think it's tomorrow. So I think people could, if you compare, not you and me, but if someone's watching this, right, and you compare me and Sam, I've got 7,000 subscribers and you've got how many? Like 30,
there's something in the low 30s.
Yeah, because we had this conversation in a day. Yeah, so people could then be like you can literally compare that because we started our channels at the same time, and I think that is the problem, is that too many people compare. They compare how long they've been doing something, and they don't actually compare. Well, for a start, you shouldn't compare anyway. But if you are going to, don't just go, oh well, I've been doing it a year and so have they. Because actually I think I looked at my video count and I've uploaded, I think, 209 videos. Now, I know for a fact you have uploaded many, many more.
I think I'm almost in the 700s.
Right. So you can't compare 3 years to 3 years. It's 700 videos to 200. And actually, that's a massive difference. Yeah. So I think that's something that people need to consider. And I think as well, it's kind of, it is very easy to get disheartened, especially if you see someone, join the community and they haven't been doing it very long, and then suddenly they surpass you and you're like, well, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my content? And it's like, there isn't anything wrong with you and there isn't anything wrong with your content, because actually a huge part of it's luck. It's a mixture of luck and hard work. Everything, like writing, anything you want to do that's creative is a mixture of luck and hard work. And I think if you're each one of those numbers is a person. So if somebody's watching that and they're getting happiness from your videos, it means something to them. That's what matters, not how many people click on it and then maybe click off after a couple of seconds. You don't know.
Right.
And I think if you're doing it just for subscribers, then you're going to be doing it for the wrong reason.
Right.
I think again, like there was that whole conversation on Twitter about, going to events and stuff. That stuff doesn't matter. It's the extra stuff. It's the stuff on the top. And I just think it's so easy to get disheartened, but you have to ask yourself why you're doing it, because for me, I started my channel because I was indoors all the time by myself. I didn't really have that many connections with people because I was ill and I didn't really have anything to talk about with people. And I thought, I want to do this. So if I fast forward to now, did I think I'd be here like 3 years later doing this? No. So to me, that's successful. I think it depends what you define as successful.
Yeah.
What is success? What is success? And to me, it's, being happy with this channel and making the content that I like. And that's all that really matters.
Yeah. And what do you want out of it really too? Like what is your motivation for wanting more subscribers? Because I do hear a lot of people being like, oh, I want more discussion and I want more whatever. That's fine. But take a look at your channel and look at all the discussion that you're already having. Maybe even ask somebody who's not familiar with YouTube. Like I remember when I first joined YouTube and I was getting just a couple hundred subscribers, and I would just like tell someone casually about it, like a friend or whatever, and they'd be like, oh my god, you have like 200 people subscribed to you. And it was like a huge, so you're comparing yourselves to all these like YouTube people, when in reality, like to the general population, having 200 people following your videos or even like 50 is like, what?
People are always really impressed if I meet them
Yes.
and like, oh, 7,000. They're like, oh my God, that's so great. And it's like, that it is great.
Right. It's, I mean,
And I
and
think,
you can compare it to like a stadium or whatever, is like how many seats, you know, it's like having a full house at a play. Like that's, and it's just you doing a monologue and people are watching it. Like,
Yeah.
think of that, you know, or even just like you were saying, comparing, like compare yourself, if you're going to compare, which you shouldn't,
no.
because it's the thief of joy. But
Mhm.
if you're going to compare yourself to people, look at somebody who's very, very, very similar to you. So there's people that started around the same time as me that have more than me, but I can look at their channels and be like, you know, their aesthetic is different than mine. They're younger than me, which Booktube is generally younger.
It
So the
does
younger
matter.
people, yeah, the younger people are going to be more like subscribed to. It's just a
Mhm.
thing. Are you stereotypically pretty? You're gonna have more people looking at you. It's just a fact. Is it shitty? Yes, but if you're a young, pretty white girl, you're gonna get way more viewers. Like, I am not even gonna try to act like that's not the case,
And if
because
you're
you can
really upbeat as
absolutely,
well, you know?
yes,
And the
if you
thing
have a
is, it's
certain
like,
personality type, like,
and people will like that. And that's just part of the game, you know, it's part of the industry, if you like.
right.
But you know, not everyone wants that. So
No.
it's like, you know, sometimes people want something that's different. And for me, it's like someone comes up to me and they say, oh, you know, I really like your videos, or like last year at Yauk, you know, I had this little casual meetup thing. I think there was like 10 of us, and we just sat on the floor and we chatted, and there were some girls there and they were just so, so nice. And they were telling me specific videos that I had done that they really, really valued.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me meant the world. So
Yeah.
it's like, that's what I'm doing it for. I'm not doing it for, you know, just the numbers. And I think as well, sometimes it's okay to feel stuck, but I think if you feel stuck, change something. Don't necessarily, it's okay to vent, we all vent, but going on Twitter and sort of venting about it, sometimes it's good to vent, but actually that's not going to change anything. And while we all need a healthy kind of moan every now and then, I think the best thing you can do is take a look at your content and see what you can improve for yourself. Don't ask other people, because someone will tell you to go left and someone else will tell you to go right and someone else will tell you to take a step back. So it doesn't matter. But it's like, I looked at my own content and I was like, I haven't gone up in subscribers for a very long time. I kind of stagnated for about a year. And I was like, I haven't been as creative as I was back in the beginning. I was always like trying to do different shots, and I was always trying to do these fun intros, and I just gave up. So I'm going to do this poetry video soon. And in my head, I've planned how it's going to look visually, and I'm really excited about it. So I think maybe look at the person that you were in the beginning and are you still as enthusiastic as you were? And the chances are you're probably not. If you're feeling that you're not as successful, that eats into your creativity. Like you said, it's the thief. It's the thief
Right.
of joy. It's the thief of creativity. So make a video that makes you really happy. If you feel stuck and you don't feel that you're successful enough, make that video that you really, really want to create, and enough people will watch it, and then that will be enough.
Right. It's very motivating to do. And yeah, like, don't turn yourself into somebody that you're not. So don't look at other channels that are really popular and be like, this person's really peppy and I'm going to be like that. Because you know what? We see through it so quick. Like, you can so tell when someone's uncomfortable and acting a way that they don't want to act and that they're not used to acting. Like, you can tell the genuine peppiness versus the not, and people will gravitate towards the genuine peppiness more so than not. And like those fake channels that you know are just copying off of people that are successful, like, it's not a formula, and that's not how it works. Like, people go to your channels to view you, your unique personality, your unique contributions. So I am not a peppy person. Listen to the way my voice sounds. This is not, I'm a sarcastic salt life person. That is what people
which
come
is
to my
why
channel
we get
for.
on so well.
Yeah, right. But like,
which is another valid thing though. If either of us had hypothetically pretended to be a different kind of person, we would not be sitting here right now.
No.
So by pretending to be someone else, you stop those authentic connections that you're making, because the people that you're pretending to be won't invite you into the circle, because they'll probably be able to tell. And then you're missing connections with people that actually would be like your tribe, because they don't know that you're part of their tribe.
Right.
So I think it just doesn't work. And I think as well, you know, you kind of be original, because some original things take off. Now some things don't. I'm not saying make an original video and then suddenly you're going to have like overnight success, because you're not.
Right.
But some things take off. And for me, in the beginning, it was me making that Taylor Swift book tag that just went everywhere. And you know, yeah, I've made book tags since and they haven't been as popular. I know other people have made book tags and they've gone crazy and some haven't. You can never know. There's no formula. It just depends who does it and if it catches on. But that is just a little example of what gave me like a boost in the beginning. So it's like, if you've got an idea for something, do it. If you've got an idea for something that doesn't quite fit Booktube, but it kind of does, like if you want to do a really geeky lookbook and you feel that you've got the, you know, the confidence for that, do it. If you think you want to do like a bookish DIY, do it. It doesn't always have to be fit in the box. Sometimes it's good to just kind of just go outside the box just a fraction enough that it's different. And sometimes it will take off and sometimes it doesn't, but it's just about experimenting. And, you know, I think everyone gets disheartened at some point. It would be completely silly if we said it never ever happens, but I think just don't let it get to you.
Right. And the constant, like there are, like if you keep letting it get to you and even talking about it over and over and over on Twitter, like it is exhausting for everyone outside to see. And people are like, why aren't you like, look at how successful your channel is. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? You know, it can be really disheartening for the people around you to be. And then other people are like, well, I'm not as big as she is, but she thinks she sucks. Like, what does that mean about me? And it's just like, it's just this toxic thing. So it's just like, just do what you like doing and do your channel for you. Like, don't ask people what they want to see, because it's like, it's not, if you don't like making that kind of video, then it doesn't matter, because they're going to watch that video and be like, wow, he or she is like really not having a good time with this. I'm not going to watch this. Like, this sucks.
Exactly. Like sometimes I'll say, oh, you know, have any of you guys got any suggestions? But it's said in such a, I'm curious. What
suggestion. Yeah. That I will take into consideration.
Yeah. And if it's like, I'm unhappy, what can I do to make you guys happy? That's not healthy. And it's not, your channel ultimately is for you. And I think it's okay to say, you know, is there anything you'd fancy seeing from me? Or if you've made, like I said about the poetry video, and I was like, you know, would you guys like me to read out sections of the poetry? Would you like me to talk about trigger warnings, blah, blah. And people were saying, you know, I think reading out sections would be really good, because I see a lot of these videos and people just hold up the book and say, well, this is great poetry. And it's like, well, I don't know it's great poetry because you haven't shown me anything. And so it's good to ask for the feedback, but don't ask people to kind of, I don't know, prop you up.
Right.
Is that fair? You know, kind of to, you know, you've got to be happy with it yourself. And if you're not happy, it's actually okay to take a break. Take a break for a while, take a month off and just recharge and think about how you'd like to improve your channel. Because I've done that quite a few times, and sometimes I feel so much better when I've had a break. It's
supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun. And if it's not fun and it's stressing you out and all you're doing is watching your subscriber counts, like stop and go. Like, I don't remember the last time that I really focused on my subscriber counts, and I know it's really easy to say like, well, you're big enough so it doesn't matter. Like,
but I don't either, and I can say that wholeheartedly. The only time I did it was when I noticed that every time I uploaded I was losing a bit, and I think that's something that's happening across the board. And so I was getting frustrated that it was dipping and actually going down, and it would happen like instantly as soon as I uploaded. So that again, it's not a person thing. It was like, this is really annoying me because something's clearly not working. But yeah, I don't think your value does not go up or down based on subscribe counts. And something else actually that we've talked about a lot is there are negative things about being popular.
Yes.
Like, you deal with things that I do not deal with. Like, you get some comments on your videos that are just like
like vile.
Yeah,
like,
and I get nothing.
Just, yeah, and I never used to get that when I was smaller. So like there is, and like you were saying, there is this level of, you know, I like the intimate relationships with people that I've been around, have been commenting on videos, you know, like that I know really value my channel, you know, more so than like a mob mentality of like, this is a celebrity.
And people don't talk to you now sometimes, do they? They talk about you on your own video.
Oh my God. Like,
and nobody would ever do that to me. They would never be like,
no.
Does anyone think that Sarah Jane's, you know, acting a bit weird today? They'd be like,
what's like you're not there. Like sometimes. That only happened to me a few times, but I know on even bigger channels this happens more often. Like you get treated like a commodity. You get like people at like bigger people at events, whether it's booktubers or beauty gurus or whatever, get like followed, get, you know, their time infringed upon. They can't even enjoy events necessarily because
like they always have to be on display, like a performance.
Always have to be on
day, because then it's like, oh, so and so had a really bad attitude and stuff like that. So let's having a lot of subscribers is a great thing, but let's not pretend it's perfect, because it's not. And I think you have to have a really thick skin to deal with that sort of stuff. And I think I do have a pretty thick skin, but equally I'm happy in my little bubble, and if that bubble gets bigger, then that's great. But I'm certainly not going to sit there and wish for kind of more, because it's not perfect.
It's not. And I think it is good to be grateful when you do get more successful or whatever. But it's not about, like, don't act like it's all sunshine and roses and that there isn't all of this then extra added pressure and all of these people like talking about you and passing judgment on you and they don't know you because they think they know you because you're, online and all this stuff. Like, there's extra stuff that comes with it. If I post a negative review, I'm more likely to get backlash. I still do it because, again, high salt content life. But like, some people can't handle that, and so then they end up not making videos anymore because they're like, I can't do this. I can't deal with this.
And people might not trust your content simply because you work hard. So you work hard, and you get a bit lucky. You work hard, get a bit lucky, and then you get all these subscribers, and you think, great, that's perfect. And then suddenly people stop trusting you because now that you're bigger, that means that you couldn't possibly be telling the truth. Or now that you're bigger, that means that you're trying to impress people because that's the only possible way you could have got to where you are. So it's, it's not perfect. And sometimes I go on other channels and I look at the comments, even like yours, and I see a comment and I'm just like, what is your problem? And I don't get anything like that. I get, I don't get as many comments, but the comments that I get are really supportive. They're really lovely. And so it's like, there are pros and cons to both. And what happens will happen. So you don't want to be like, I'm going to try and stay small because I don't want the negativity. But equally, that's not what we're saying. But just kind of, the grass is not always greener.
Right.
Is what I'm saying,
Exactly.
So yeah, that's how we feel about that.
Yeah, and our very long.
Be your true, authentic, weird self, and basically we're saying it could be crap either way. So
right, like, it's you can't predict it. It's luck, and just do the videos that you like doing and fucking
be creative. Don't think that you've always got to do stuff that other people are doing. Do something that's totally different. And also, don't be afraid to put videos out there that don't fit in with your typical themes either.
Right, and don't apologize for it. Like, don't apologize.
Like, I did a non-bookish video just the other week, and it was about, talking about self-worth and stuff. That's got nothing to do with books. And some people probably saw it and thought, well, I don't want to watch that because it's not a bookish video. But then some people watched it and was like, I really needed this today. So, it's fine to go outside the box a little bit. The video that I get requested for the most is a video to talk about my cat. Like, people literally keep saying, can we have a video on Luna?
And you're like, yes.
And I'm like, yes, you can. One day you can. So, it's okay to push the boundaries and to be a bit different. You haven't got to fit into this perfect box where you only do book hauls with a really happy voice.
There is no box. Like, and if that works for some people, it's not going to work for everybody. And it's just, as we said.
Yep.
Somebody asked, how have you changed as a person and as a reader since starting Booktube? I feel like I know way more about how, like, the publishing industry works. I also know, like, I'm more attuned to new releases than I was ever before. I never knew when books came out before. I never knew the scheduling. I never knew they came out on Tuesdays. Like, I never knew any of that. I pay more attention to which publishers I like, so I know that there's certain ones I'm going to gravitate towards, which I never, ever thought about before, ever. I also understand that authors are people now. I feel like the more, like, that you get involved with the book community, you can see that, like, authors are not this thing to put on a pedestal, and they're not perfect, and they're not, like, it's not this dreamy life. Like, authors usually, unless they make, like, tons of money on bestseller lists, are struggling, might have multiple jobs. It's not like they're just this, they sit there with their muses and they get fed grapes all day. Not that I ever thought that, but like,
in their cabin in the woods.
Yeah, like, it's not, they're just people. They're just people like we are. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Same thing with booktubers. Like, bigger booktubers, as we've discussed, are just people. Like, there's nothing.
And rather you treat them as such.
Yep, there's nothing super special about any of them. Like, they're just normal, like anybody you run into on the street. Like, it's not
in the nicest way.
Yes, in the nicest way. Like, you can, like, they're normal. Like, it's not a bad thing. Like, it's fine. So I feel like that's a big thing. I feel like it hasn't necessarily removed the, like, glamour of it, because it was never like I was very, like, about any of this. But it's just, you become a lot more realistic about stuff. We discussed about how we've changed with our pre-orders and the books that we're buying, and the obsession with the dip and the ebbs and flows of like wanting to have a lot of books versus not, and that kind of stuff. Being able to walk into a bookstore and recognizing the majority of the titles, even if you haven't read them.
Yep.
That's fun. Because you're like, I know everything about this. And you like walk through the section at Barnes & Noble or like whatever store you have and are like, ask questions about things.
And you can recommend a book to somebody now
Yep.
more than what you probably could have a few years ago. That's what I've found.
Definitely. So those are my big things, I feel like.
I don't think my perception of the industry or anything like that changed, because I always was in that kind of mindset anyway, because of coming from a script writing degree background. I was always very in tune with the industry in a certain way anyway. So I think that was the same. I think I've learned it's weird, because are we talking about before Booktube, or are we talking about that kind of period of like you've been on Booktube a year? If we kind of go back and say what have I learned in my journey, I would say I've learned that it's okay to unhaul books. Not holding on to every book that I've ever read it's literally not necessary. I think I've gotten more fussy when it comes to editions of books. I'm not gonna lie. If I want a specific edition, I will go out of my way to get the one from America or whatever. And I never used to be like that, so that's kind of something that's perhaps slightly negative.
Pickiness about book covers is a thing that I've
I've become much more picky. I think I've probably learned not to read all the books that are typically popular just because somebody else likes them doesn't mean that I'd like them. But again, I've gotten more in tune with books being released. I never used to care about that, and I never used to care about publishers, whereas now there's a couple of publishers that actually aren't part of the big 6 or whatever, and I find that there's quite a few books that I pick up and they're on the same publishing house, and I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe I'll like that too, and things. So I think that's changed. But I think for me it's actually probably more how I've changed as a person rather than changed as a reader, because if I go back, like I kind of touched on earlier, I'd been at uni and I developed like this thick skin. I could take criticism. I'd gone up in confidence. I did a pitch about a story idea that I had in front of 300 people, even though in the first year I was like, hi, my name's Sarah Jane. Like I went literally up. And then I expected to finish uni and then be like, I'm going to go get my dream job, or at least get on the first rung of the ladder for my dream job. And then that didn't happen. So my confidence went right the way down. I felt like my self-worth had gone right the way down. And then I've become part of the Booktube community, and suddenly I'm back in the writing industry. I'm back in the creative industry. And so my confidence started to go up more. And so I think personally, I've been on a massive journey, because I've learned that not everyone's going to like you, and that's totally okay. I've definitely developed a thicker skin. But I think I've learned how to also be more professional. I've learned if I don't like something, there is no need to be like, this book's shit. It's better to be, this is what I think was wrong. This is what I think could have been done better. So I think it's probably done more for me personally than it has as a reader, because I think not that much has changed. I still need to learn to read outside my comfort zone. That's something that I'm not great at. It takes a lot for me to pick up something that's not my usual read, and usually it's because it's a book to movie adaptation, and so I'm like, oh, I'll read. I need to learn to be a bit more, go into a bookshop, this book sounds good, and just pick it up and leave. Not be like, what do people think on Goodreads? Has anyone read it that I respect, and that sort of thing. Sometimes I think I need to just go with the flow a little bit, because I think the problem is sometimes you can get so caught up in like reviews, and actually that's great because we are reviewers, but sometimes I kind of miss the, I don't know, not the innocence of it, but you know what I mean? It's
like just being able to wander into a book and be like, this is my favorite, and I never would have found out about it any other way, kind of thing. But I think probably I've changed more personally than anything, which is good, because growth is always good, right? I've gotten better about reading bigger books, like especially with me creating like Tome Topple and stuff, to force myself to do it. But now even outside of Tome Topple, I read much bigger books than I ever did before. So that's awesome. I am also way more picky about what I read. Like you're saying that you need to be a little more like, go with the flow. I don't have time. Like I want to make sure that something that I'm reading is like hopefully as good as it can be for me. And I'm not going to like necessarily take a lot of chances on stuff that people are like, I don't really know, back and forth. And it's like, well, then maybe I won't read this right
Well, I
now.
probably wouldn't do that either. That's the weird thing. It's probably a bit of both. Like, I want to go and pick up a book with nobody's opinion. But if I see a book that's floating around on Twitter and people are like, some people love it, some people hate it, and you're like, oh, read it yourself to make up your own mind, I'm like, no.
Yeah, like I don't want to bother, you know. Yeah, I feel like, and this is very much timely with me in like grad school and I just not having time. I think after I get done with grad school, like I'll go back to being able to, you know, pick things that are a little more risky as far as like, am I gonna like it? I don't know.
You've got
But
limited
right now,
time, you've got to be more picky.
yeah, but right now I'm just like, I want to read stuff that I'm really, really, really excited about and nothing else. And like, I don't want to deal with anything else. So I think that's changed a lot too. Yeah, I feel like the friendships that I've made and stuff have been like amazing and awesome. And I never really had, right? And I never really had like bookish friends. So that's been like a huge change, obviously, from Booktube. And I'm so grateful for that. So yeah, those are the major things. Booktube.
There was one other comment that was on my video that I'd forgotten about, and that was what's your favorite memory of each other, which is a tricky one because we haven't met,
right? Like we haven't hung out.
It's not like we're saying these are our favorite memories together,
right? So that's the thing too, is I think we should point out that we've talked about numerous times, is that, again, tangent, but people get so upset if they can't go to events or whatever. They feel like their online relationships aren't as valid. We've been friends for like close to 3 years because we started talking, I think, 6 months into each other's channels. And we've never met in real life. And it's not, but we talk like every day, if not every other, unless like if one of us
and if it's every other day, then it will be like every day, every day, every day, every other day, every day, every day, every day, every other day. Like it's more often every day than it is not.
Right. And so it's not like this relationship is less valid because we don't get to go to book events together and take photos. Like, anyway.
I mean, we love it.
And right. Like, that'd be great. And it'll happen eventually, but it doesn't mean anything that we haven't. So if people are feeling that kind of way because VidCon and BEA and stuff happen, like, rest assured, it's not that important.
And if you're someone who can't do that because of anxiety or because of disability or even location, like, don't let it stop you, because you just don't know what you're going to bond with somebody over. Like, part of the things that we've even bonded over has been like health stuff,
right?
Because we could relate to each other in very different ways, and so like you just don't know what's gonna solidify, not that solidified a friendship, but you know what I mean. You don't know. There are far more deeper connections than liking the same book and going to the same event. I'm friends with Sian from Reader's Rambles. She lives 2.5 hours away. Now, in comparison to you and me, that's a walk in the park, but she still doesn't actually live that close, and we again talk every day. So it's like, I wouldn't be any different friends with Sian if I either hadn't met her yet or if I saw her every week. It's the same. If I'm friends with the people I'm friends with because of the people they are, not based on their location or anything like that.
You get to see them, and
But as far as our favorite memory, I would probably, I know reading the group. Do you know what my favorite memory is? When you and Kristen went and met Lee Bardugo.
Oh yeah!
And you told her about me, and then I met Lee Bardugo, and I told her about you two, and she leapt up and went, "Oh my god, you're the other one!"
Yes,
and then she was like, "You've met through me." She was like, "This is so cool. I've met all three of you," and she was really excited about it. So that's probably one of my favorite memories, because she's met all three of us, but we haven't met. So I think that's really funny. I think that's it. I think that is probably my favorite one.
Yeah, I really like that one. Mine is also a Grisha trilogy related memory, which was not planned. I have a very visceral memory of finishing Ruin and Rising and voice messaging you and Kristen about it, like just frantic. Like we were just like, I mean, the most explosive messages of just like
for literally I think 2 hours solid. Yeah,
like
solid.
We were just so, I mean, like so, and it was late at night and we were just like I mean, it was crazy. So I feel like that is one of my favorites
for me, because it was late for you guys, and so I was like, well, it's 2 a.m. here,
right? I mean, that was a lot of fun. And I feel like there's just been a lot of memories. Like, what's so funny is one of the things that sticks out to me too, even though it's not a memory, is like we've had so many instances where we both have gotten really emotional thinking about meeting up. Like, I'm about to tear up. Like
and we cry,
we
and then
think
we
about
hear
it.
the other person crying, and then we cry.
Right, and then we're just like, I just wish I could hug you. I mean, like, there's been so many times that that's happened.
You know,
So I
in
almost feel
Friends,
that's like
when Rachel and Monica start crying, that is like us. We literally
yeah. Basically, yep.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think of
and
too.
messages like, and I'm not going to go into it because I know that we will literally tear up, but like messages from you, like, you know, because obviously nobody else knew what was going on, but obviously as your friend I did. And that message where you were like, I'm fine, and I remember just crying, and like I remember someone knocked at my door with a parcel and they were like, Sarah Jane. I was like,
and you're like, oh.
yeah. And it was just like, so that's obviously, that goes without saying, that's a great memory. And again, that is again a testament to, you don't need to be in close geographical distance. Like, it's just and also another one is whenever we get pets, because like you've got Kai and Tally, and I've got Luna and Benji and Bertie, bless him. And so yeah, whenever any of us get, like, we get like a new pet, we're just like,
it's like a thing.
So excited.
Yeah,
so excited. So, and even like when they're sick as well, I know that's not a nice memory, but we're always like, are they okay, blah blah blah. Like when Kai went missing, I was literally messaging you like, is he back yet? And I knew that he wasn't, because I knew that the second he came back, you'd tell me. But I'm still waiting, and again, you told me, I was like, I'm so glad he's back. It's like, get a grip.
we talk about our pets like they're children, so like that's how like we all understand.
I was like, I'm part of the team. I have a cat now. Do you remember? I was like, I'm so excited. And then I get this cat and I'm like, Sam, she won't stop crying.
I mean, literally like newborns. Like, what do we do? And what kind of food should I feed her? And like all this stuff. Like,
so they're probably like some of our like nicest memories, I think. And something else actually that I really, really like is when we send each other things and we watch the other person open them. That's really, really great. And like, there's something that I've started making you, and I'm filming it, and it's like, it's not even really book related, it's more like fandom related. And I'm making this thing for you and I'm filming it, and I'm not going to put the video up until you've had it and you've like opened it, and you know, and I'm so excited about that, because it's a way for us to, you know, have those experiences when we're not actually in the same room and stuff. And that's something else that I'd encourage people to do. I'm not saying like, you know, you must buy your friends something, but make them something, you know, like, and send it to them and have that sort of experience. It's so much fun. And like, I remember when you sent me that thing for Domino, and it was like that really nice picture, and I was like, oh. You know, and it's just so fun seeing something that you've either bought and really loved or made or whatever, and then you see it on the other person's screen and you see their joy opening it. Like that's
tons of ways to have connections when you're not close geographically to somebody.
Like, I remember when I sent you that bookmark and you loved it so much, and you were literally like holding it on your forehead. You're like, I just love this. I think it's great.
Yep. I was actually just thinking about that when you were talking about like, stuff.
So
funny.
That's probably one of my favorite things actually, is when we send each other stuff. which makes me more excited to send you this thing that I've like been planning for ages, but it's really awkward to film, you know, and you've got to film like a different setup, and you're like, I don't want to, but I want to film it equally. So, but yeah, it's gonna be great, and it will get to you before BookNet Fest.
Ooh, you're like doo. Let me see. Somebody asked, who was our first fictional crush?
What, on Booktube or in life?
I think in life. I don't even remember. I'm trying to think of like even the books. It probably would have been TV show more than books. Oh, my first fictional crush ever, like if it's not books, is either Han Solo or Indiana Jones. So Harrison Ford.
Oh God.
Was like my
We're going that far back.
Oh my God, that had to be, because that was like before I was really like reading a ton.
And I had them at the same time. And it really, really, honestly, when I tell you this, you're going to laugh so much, because it's literally me down to a T. So one of them was Brendan Fraser's character from The Mummy. The
Mummy, yep.
He was this rough, round the edges guy who had a heart of gold, and like they first met when he was like I think going to be like hung. I think he was going to be like hanged or something.
Right.
And so I love him. And then my other one was Legolas from Lord of the Rings.
Oh my God.
And if
my high school boyfriend.
And if that isn't me in a nutshell, I don't know what is. It's like those two things. And oh my God, that's even you. Right, I'm not telling anybody else this, but you know the stuff that I know. You know, so you know what I know. You know the stuff that I've been telling you about my story,
Uh-huh.
and think about that, and then think
Right.
about what I've just told you.
Right. That's so funny.
That stayed with me for so long.
That's what happens. These are our formative, like, you know, romantic notions. Yeah, Legolas was my high school boyfriend, and I had his poster on my door up
Me
until
too.
like even a
The
couple
one
of
where
years
he's
ago.
like, please tell me it was the one where he's like,
I think it was just like the face, like it was like the it was the Two Towers, one of the Two Towers movie posters, and they had like
I
a
didn't
bunch
have
of the
that.
people, and it was just like his like face and
Yeah.
figure, and just like
Mine was like the archery one.
mine was not an action shot. It was just his
Uh,
beautiful face.
Mine was.
So yeah, and I had it like on my door.
Outside
Like my
the
mom recently took it down from my
oh my
like
God.
from my child, and I've been out of my childhood home for years, but she kept it up there like because she was like it's Samantha's room. But like yeah, he was there.
Wow.
He was there protecting
After
me.
that, I think it was like the OC.
Oh,
So I went into Ryan. Ryan was like my again bad boy.
right. I had
he
like
was
the Buffy, Spike and Angel were like
yeah,
my
yeah.
crushes in middle school and high school. Pacey Witter from Dawson's Creek.
Never watched it.
Okay, listen. So I know we've talked about it before.
We're not friends
but
anymore.
like no, like the kind of like bad, like the sort of contemporary bad boy
Yeah.
with a heart of gold is Pacey Witter. He's
I
amazing.
never watched it. I had this weird thing where like I could only watch one TV show of each type. So I never watched things like One Tree Hill because I was watching the OC. I never watched Pretty Little Liars because I watched Gossip Girl. And it's like I felt
I do the same thing.
I created this thing in my head where I could only like one of the two things, you know? And the funny thing is like, yeah, with that, it was like Chuck Bass and, all this stuff. But the funniest thing, and I know this was first fictional crushes, but I just feel like I have to mention it. The funniest thing now is that my ultimate fictional crush now is Spencer Reid from Criminal Minds. And he is such a nerd. He's such a nerd. And even like the guy who actually plays him, I love like his tweets and stuff. He'll be like wearing these massive glasses and like a really big dorky jumper, and he's like going, and I'm like, oh my God, marry me. It's like, what has changed? But I think these dorks are now like the best thing. I don't know, maybe I'm growing up.
Yeah.
But I still love the fictional bad boy, but I think
you don't really want to date them anymore necessarily.
No, I don't. And I think I've learned that over the last year or so. It's what you like in fiction, guys, is not necessarily what you want in real life.
Yes. Oh my God, please, people realize that. That's my goal for 2017. Like a fictional character doesn't mean you want to like be
brooding and miscommunication and stuff is not fun.
No. Like,
no.
No. So
and it's not fun for your friends either, because then you vox them for ages, so it's kind of I think what you like in fiction is not what you like in real life. And in real life it's Spencer Reid.
Right.
Did you find me? He'll find me.
One day.
He'll find me. Yeah.
How do you feel about hype on Booktube causing people to think that popularity equals quality with the books we read? I don't necessarily feel like people think that.
I don't.
Yeah, like I don't necessarily feel like people think. Actually, if anything, I feel like people have swung the other way and feel like if it's popular, it's like not good. I think that's more of a problem right now than anything else. And I feel like there's obviously both exist. Like it can be popular and good, and it can be popular and not that great. And like hype doesn't.
I think hype doesn't affect that. Than anything. I think people, it's good to have buzz about a book. But when it actually goes down to like hype or goes up to hype and stuff, I think people just go, I'm not interested because of the hype. Like, I mean, literally you're going through that right now.
Right.
And it's not even about hype about new books. It's hype about books that have been out for ages. There are some books you don't want to touch because you just think, I'm going to be crucified. And not that we care. We don't care about that. But it is just like, am I mentally prepared to deal with it's like standing in front of the ocean and be like, come at me, waves. Like,
it really is.
Yeah. And sometimes you're just like, I haven't got the energy. So
I'm just tired.
Yeah. It's like, I haven't read the Lunar Chronicles yet because I know that as soon as I pick it up, it's going to be, oh my God, what did you think? And I'm like, can
you just let me finish it first?
Yeah, and this is something else again that we don't actually typically talk about books, but we talk about issues surrounding books, don't we? And we were saying literally just the other day, or maybe even today, that our main thing is that actually with hype, people expect someone to be as excited as they are about the entire series when that person has read book 1.
Right. Or half of book 1.
Or half of book 1. I would never ever, if say for example, you pick up the Fever series, I will not message you on page like 103 and be like, do you love Barons yet?
Right.
Because you won't.
Like, it's not, oh my God, it's so annoying. Like, it's just, so yeah, we've been talking about that recently since I started the Infernal Devices. And y'all are crazy. And I need you all to, like, breathe. And I've said that, like, numerous times, and people are still like, but what do you think of Will Herondale? And I'm like, stop.
It's like, you're actually going to make her not like Will Herondale.
Right.
Because you're not, if you make out a character to be so much of a big deal, they won't be. And that's actually why I really, really, I have no idea what happened. Oh, Jessica Jones just fell down again. Oh. She just keeps falling over. She's a Funko Pop that doesn't want to stand up.
She's drunk.
Yeah, she's drunk. Go home, Jessica Jones. She's too hyped. She couldn't deal with it. I think, what was I even saying about hype?
Hype and not liking
oh yeah, that's why I'm not bothered. Really, although I think our idea of the challenge with the urban fantasy thing is fun, that's why it doesn't bother me that much that you haven't read them yet, because I know that there's no way you're going to feel the same way as I do 4 years down the line.
Right.
Like, you're just not. And I think people just need to calm down, because no first book is perfect. And, you know, you can't, it is literally like saying, you know, oh, eat this, another food analogy, eat this raw ingredient and then tell me about what you feel like, what you feel about the dish as a whole.
Right. Like,
you can't, like, just calm down.
Right. Yeah. And even like the stuff, people don't realize that it's not like a spoiler, but it's like close to that, because if this character's being a douche in book 1 and they're like, but I love them, and I'm like, okay, well, now I know that something like happens to turn them around.
And what you probably loved about them was the arc.
Right.
Like, for example, the arc for me, I picked up the Fever series when I had no idea that it even existed, right? So I went on this really organic journey of discovering Barons to change and all this sort of stuff. So it's like, because of Booktube, people who read that book because of me are never going to have that.
Right.
And that's okay, because they found out about the book because of me. So that's fine. That's just part of life. But they're not going to have the same. If you pick up a book based on a review or someone's opinion, you're never, ever going to have the same opinion as that person who just picked it up just because.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely better
to understand that hype can affect the book. And I think, if anything, it just makes you more critical. You know? And it just makes you more like, I don't like this character. Like, I felt when I read The Infernal Devices, everyone loved Will so much that I just was like, why? Why do you love him so much? And rather than love him, I love Jen.
And going into a super hyped series or book makes you, yes, 10 times more critical of it, because you're expecting it to be this great thing, or you're just like, you know, I need to really pay attention to these things. Right. Like, yes. So it's just.
We were so excited, little innocent us. We were like, oh my God.
And then we were like, I hate this.
Yeah.
But then Akamath happened and it was fine.
Yeah. But yeah, I think hype actually sometimes does. I mean, it doesn't do more damage because it sells the books, and publishing is an industry and a business. But as far as like Booktube goes, I think it probably does sometimes more damage. There's a healthy level of hype. You know, like if you had like a hypometer, you know, and
there's
it's
a certain level it has to go to, and then when you go above or below, it's kind of.
It's in the orange, it's good, but if it starts going up to red, we need to create this hypometer. Oh my
and
God!
Where would they fall?
Like, where would books fall on the hypometer? Oh, I'm getting so many ideas. But I will probably never film because I'm lazy. But you know, the thoughts there.
Exactly. What really sells you on a book? The cover, the blurb, the author, a high recommendation from a friend, etc. All of the above.
All of the above.
It has to have a combination. I actually don't really like blurbs. I don't like blurbs or like synopsis. Like, I really don't. The synopsis on the back of the book, I don't feel as helpful. When somebody does a synopsis that they've made themselves in a video, that's more helpful.
I always read the blurb, you know. Yeah. I think there's a lot. I don't pick it up. I don't read the blurb, actually. And a lot of the time, if you've got a hardback, it's on the inside anyway, so you just can't be bothered. So I don't think the blurb. I think for me, this is a weird one. It's the quotes, right? Because when you see somebody, because I'm a writer, I just I feel like I get a strong sense of what that book's going to be like. Now, sometimes that backfires on me because I really was excited for Winter Song and I saw some of the quotes and I was like, this is right down my street and I'm going to love it. And then I was like, this is the biggest disappointment since, you know, vanilla ice cream. So I hated it. But typically, yeah, you know, when you get like the snippets and it will be like a quote and then it will say like 5 days or something like that for it to come out. I love that stuff. I live for that stuff.
I never pay attention to that.
Oh, I love it because I really get a sense of that person's writing style. I get a sense of, because I start to imagine what context that's come from, and that's just how my brain works. So the covers matter to me. Really, really picky. I think the author does matter. You know, you are
definitely if you have an author that you already know you like you're probably going to pick that next book up.
Yeah. But I think it's just probably it's a combination of all of the above. And kind of, I think just seeing people talk about it, people that I trust as reviewers, you know, whether they liked it or not, because there are some people out there who I know I have a very different opinion on. They could literally be like, I hated this book. There was lots of swearing. Didn't like the way the character was really unlikable and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm there. I'm going to buy it right now. So just seeing like what the buzz is, not necessarily the hype, the quiet buzz, you know?
Right.
But yeah,
the combined opinions, I feel like too. Like I can get like say if you recommended a book, it would be on my radar. But then if 3 other people I trust also recommended it, then I'm like, okay, let me pick this up.
Yeah,
but there's not any one reviewer that like only like they review something and I immediately like I need it.
Because
like,
you never have the same opinions as anyone. Like you and me have really similar opinions, but we don't like the same thing every time. You know, so yeah, it's just a combination of all of the above. And if a book has a pretty cover, I don't think it makes me pick it up more or less, but it probably makes me pick it up sooner, as in buy it sooner. You know, because I'm like, I have to own that. That's so pretty. I need to have this in my possession. But it wouldn't necessarily mean that I'm going to read a book that I would never ordinarily read. Right. But I just feel the need to own it. You know, and then the problem is if you don't like the book, then you're like, do I keep it just because it's pretty or
right? And if I like a pretty cover, I usually will then kind of check out like skim read the blurb and be like, is that worth its cover? And then but like again, and then it'll be on my radar until I get recommendations and reviews for it.
Isn't it funny though how sometimes you sort of hear about a book and you're just like, yep, buy it in that second, and then other times you're like, I don't know. Then like I don't know,
maybe I don't know, put on my wish list.
I think it depends what mood I'm in. Sometimes I just want to spend money.
Right, like if you want to treat yourself, girl, then you just get those books up on your radar.
And we are bad for that, but it's okay.
If you were forced to live in a book cover, which one would you choose? Which is actually like kind of hard. So I don't know why I asked that.
In a book cover,
because there's really not there's not a lot of I don't have a lot of landscape covers. You know.
I really like the covers for like, you know, for Passenger, and it's like the ship in a bottle. I'd like to. I don't know, I'm saying I wouldn't necessarily be put in a bottle, but you know, or like a genie. But I think that would be fun.
I think
it's going to be one of those things that we find like tomorrow, and we're like, oh, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I?
feel like the Long Way to a Small Angry Planet cover, because it's just like space.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
But I get really scared. This is a really weird fact that nobody asked to know. I get really scared looking up. I love laying there looking up at, like, say, the stars or whatever. I cannot look up. I know it is a starry cover, but I can't look up at the sky. So, you know, when people like lay there and it's like really nice and they're like laying like this and they're looking up at this, like the sun and the clouds and everything. I can't do that. I literally can't do that because I feel like my body is just instantly going to go.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
It's
kind of
so
like if
weird.
you're right underwater and you're like right at the surface. Have you done that before where you're like swimming, but you go under the water like this?
No,
and you feel like you're drowning?
No, I never.
I used to do that all the time when I was younger because
it's
like pretty, but then you feel like you're drowning.
No, I've never done it. Never done it. I just feel like if I look up at the sky, I feel like a kite. You know, like I feel like I'm just suddenly going to go whoosh. So I don't mind it at night. Apparently at night it's perfectly safe, which is actually ironic because that's probably the time I'm most likely to get abducted by aliens.
Right.
But
Take me.
I don't know if I'd really want to be in that cover, as pretty as it is. I don't know if I want to be in it. I think I'm gonna like bottle this question in my head and kind of like have a look at my book later, and then I will talk later about the covers I would like to live in. Yeah, I think that's what
Maybe
I'll
a
do.
top 5 Wednesday question.
Yes.
I should write that down. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
rewatch this whole thing just so I can get like these video ideas that we talked about.
Yeah,
So
that should be a top 5 Wednesday topic, and I will actually do it for once in my life. Because I always see it's Wednesday, and I'm like, oh
like I should do that, and
man,
then
yeah, and then I don't. I love that we've got tweets, like people say that they like our friendship and stuff.
I know I saw that. That's really cute. I was like, oh, because we're so cute.
Yes.
Some people asked about thoughts on guilty pleasure books, and if you ever felt guilty for reading / liking a certain book. I think we're gonna have the same opinion on guilty pleasure reads, which is kind of what everyone says recently, and it's just kind of like the trend for guilty pleasures is like there's no such thing as guilty pleasures, and like
Yeah.
like you shouldn't feel guilty about liking something, and there's just certain kinds of books that are not of the same quality, and they're not even necessarily trying to be the same quality,
Yeah.
so it doesn't really matter.
And sometimes
it's
you
fine.
need light relief, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
TV shows, I like the intense TV shows. I like the dark ones, the gritty ones, supernatural ones, all of this stuff. And then, like, we have this program, and if anyone's not in the UK, they're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? We have this program called Love Island, which is literally a load of singletons who go to this island and they all try and like hook up with each other. And then if they don't find a couple, they get dumped off the island, right? It's terrible. I love it. And I watch this every night and I sit there and I'm like loving it. And sometimes you just need that. And it's applying that to books. Sometimes you just need that. And it's not necessarily a guilty pleasure. I think it's just, you know, a low maintenance read.
Mm-hmm.
You need something just to get you through. And the thing is, you might need that for so many reasons. You know, sometimes you're feeling really sad and you just need something that's going to be really easy. Like, obviously people who follow me on Twitter, and you know, obviously tomorrow's going to be a really sad day for me because of like my rabbit and everything, which I'm not going to go into because I'll cry. But I know that tomorrow night I'm going to want to read something that is just so lighthearted and easy to read because I'm not going to have the mental capacity to deal with something heavy. And I think nobody should ever make you feel guilty for that. If it's a guilty pleasure where perhaps you're talking about a book that's problematic, I think that's a different kind of situation.
Right.
But again, it's just about how you tackle it. You can still enjoy something that's not perfect as long as you acknowledge the issues. It's okay to say, I like this book even though.
Yeah.
You know, that's okay.
Addressing those things, so if people are going to read it, then they are already warned about it so that they won't like
exactly. And as long as you don't say something like, you know, this was a guilty pleasure read for me, so I don't care about that stuff.
Right.
You know, because somebody else will care, and it still could be a book that's damaging to a minority or something like that. And that doesn't change just because you're reading it as just for fun. That doesn't change. It's still the same. So I think it's just kind of, again, if it's something that could potentially be problematic, be responsible with that. But equally, it's okay to read something if it's not the most important literary fiction.
Absolutely.
You know? Like, it's like we all have junk food.
Right. And I've never really felt guilty for reading or liking anything. Like, if anything, like maybe I felt, but no, it wasn't even guilt, but it's just like, oh, that sucks. Like if I missed something that was a problem, you know, like with some, whatever, just because not everyone's going to catch everything. Not everyone has the same level of privilege. Like there's just certain things that you're not going to catch. And there's certain things that are going to affect one person, not the other. So like I could not catch something that, or not care or not think that it's that important, you know, and then somebody else that's the same as me could feel different about it.
I feel that way with sometimes like Colleen Hoover books because I used to just inhale read them and they were like really good escapism and like a little bit trashy, but I love them. And like now I look back on them and I actually did exactly like the opposite of what advice I've just given because I wasn't aware of it. And I was kind of like, oh no, it's just a lighthearted, easy read. And it's like, yeah, but for some people it's not. Right. And now I say, you know, yeah, I love these books, but so it's never too late to do that. It's okay if you read something way back when and it was your guilty pleasure read, but now you're kind of a little bit like, oh, actually, if I talk about it, I'll mention this. You know? So I don't think anything should be a guilty pleasure because I think life can suck sometimes and we need to take the light relief that we can.
Right. And we're always like learning and everything else, you know, so it's not like we should be held accountable for something, you know. Again, there's problematic things in like the Anita Blake series. Yeah. And if someone was like, oh my God, how is that your favorite series? You're a piece of shit. And I was like, I started reading that when I was 16. Like, give me a break.
Same with the Fever series. Like, I mean, you know, and there was that whole thing about, you know, one character I'll fight. And Barron's just kept coming up and it was like, oh, you know, he's horrible, he's abusive, he's this, he's that. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool.
Right.
Like, fine. I'm not going to sit there and go, he's a great character, he has a great moral code, all this stuff, because he doesn't.
And people like different things too, like, and people give people the benefit of the doubt.
Don't feel like, oh my god, I'm such a bad person, or I need to find a better high class novel to become my favorite because this sort of thing can't possibly be my favorite. It's like, it's fine.
Right.
It's fine. You don't need to, you know how sometimes when people say about like, what's your favorite book, and they feel the need to go like, oh, such and such, you know, and it's like a really good bestseller and all this stuff, but really it's the other thing.
Right.
You know, it's
look
okay.
Like high class.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't care that my favorite series is the Fever series. Like, if someone's going to judge me over it, then there's far worse things they could judge me over. So it's fine.
We all have that. Yeah, and it's just people can critically analyze things that they like and give them the benefit of the doubt. If they don't, and you see that they like repeatedly don't do that, then be like, all right, this is shitty. But like us, especially, it's like we point out when it's like, yeah, this book is trash, but I like it, and here's why it's trash. But like, so be prepared. But here's some of the good things that I liked about it, and make the decision for yourself. Like, sometimes you just need trash, and I don't think we should judge people for reading trashy books either, because not that there has to be a valid reason, but you don't know the reason. So don't judge someone for needing a bit of escapism, because we all need that sometimes. So, and it's not always ignorance or being naive or something like that.
Sometimes you need something that's not going to hurt your brain.
Right. I don't know what other questions to pick. I think that we're
favorite reality show.
I saw that.
So funny. I tend to try and not like reality shows because, you know, they're trash. Right. But I always like Catfish, don't I? Do you remember, like, I message you every time, right? This is a funny thing that people will laugh at, because it does actually relate back to our friendship. Whenever I watch an episode of Catfish and they're anywhere near Sam, I'm literally like, I box her and I'm like, they're in Philadelphia. Or like, they're in here, anywhere near you. I'm like, you know, I see what it looks like because they're driving around the streets.
Well, because you always have that weird, like, we've talked about how it's a really different perspective because Britain is so much smaller, you know, England's so much smaller than the United States. And so, like, there's this weird concept of, like, how different cultures are state to state and how big the United States is. So I feel like whenever you see something that's in the US, you're like, oh my God.
I get so excited about it. Yeah. That's quite a funny thing. And I still do that even now. Like, even if I don't tell you about it, I'm like,
right.
I like tell whoever I'm with. Like, if I'm with Sean, I'll be like, that's near where Sam lives. She's like, okay. Like,
she's like, cool.
Why is that so exciting? Oh, we're if anything has been established tonight, it's that we're both weird and we love it.
It's true.
Yeah. What were you going to say anyway? Because I completely cut you off there.
I feel like we have about, well, for me, 10 more minutes to the top of the hour. Well, if you two, so 10 minutes to the top of the hour.
We have about 10 minutes left before I absolutely desperately need to go to the toilet.
Perfect. So I feel like just answering a couple more questions. Even though we have a ton more we could probably answer, but like, y'all can't be here for hours and hours and hours.
No.
So.
We have bladders.
I'm really hungry, actually. So.
Well, yeah, because it's probably like, what, 5 for you now, nearly?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, it's nearly 10 o'clock for me.
I don't know what else to...
That's another thing people will laugh at. You'd think that our friendship would kind of like be set in weird hours, and it's really not, because we both have really
weird hours.
Sleep schedules. So there'll be times when, you know, like Sam will message me and it's 2 a.m. here and I'm awake. And then there'll be other times when I message her at, say, I very rarely get up early, but every now and again I get up early. So I know that she's going to be asleep. And then I see her listening and I'm like, how are you listening to it? She's like, yeah, it's 7 a.m. I'm still awake. And I'm
right, because I'm trash.
So it's just really funny how the time difference has no relevance at all.
It's nice for us.
Yeah. Oh, what about that Hunger Games one? That was so funny.
Oh, that was funny. Okay. It was like, who would survive the two of us the longest in the Hunger Games? Yes. And I just loved that question.
You said that you had an opinion about it. I have a theory. So I think in terms of like actually, you know, being badass and surviving, it's you. Like 100%, I would be dead very quickly. But I feel like I'm quite clever when it comes to like, sounds really awful, but manipulating people. I feel like I could like lie my way out of a situation, or I could like get myself in an alliance even if I wasn't really. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I could manipulate people that way. But I also think I'd be quite good in terms of like keeping people alive, cooking things, or like you know how Peter like covers himself in like camouflage and right. I think I'd be really good at that sort of side of things, and I think people would want to keep me around for that. But actually when it comes to hand on hand, combat or running to get the spear, I would be gone. And that's genuinely how I feel about it.
That's kind of what I was thinking. So I was like, it's not really a fair question because Sarah Jane has chronic fatigue. So like, so Sarah Jane like literally like physically can't do a lot of this stuff. So
you know, look at the second one where they all start running to the thing and they're all like, I'd just be like,
right.
oh wait, here, guys.
Just like sit. Like, I mean, like that's yeah.
Oh my
so
god, I'd be like
from a physical
Mags.
standpoint, like that's.
I'd be Mags. I'd be like on Finnick.
Oh my god.
That's how I die. Oh my god, that's so sad. That's a really sad question. But yeah, it's one of those questions. It's like it doesn't. If we're being realistic,
right.
I'd need someone to volunteer as tribute for me.
Right. And also, what's the arena like? Because like, is it a more physical arena or is it a more like manipulative?
Yeah, I think I'd be okay like that. And I don't mean I'd be okay and I'd last longer than you. I think they would probably be quite even because, you know, we're both Slytherins, let's face it. But I think if we're putting it down to like a lot of physical skills, I'd be gone. Like I always say this about a zombie apocalypse, and like I would be gone. I'd probably walk faster as a zombie than as a human. You know, like at least if I was a zombie, I would never get tired.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that you're sleepy.
Yeah, so you know, I'd be better.
Shambling.
But I think when it comes to kind of, you know, working out escape routes or, you know, like we need to make this person go over here so that we can escape through there, I feel like I'd have a good tactical mind for that sort of thing. But when it comes to actual physical strength or stamina, I'm a goner. I'm Mags. Drop me. And then I'll be like, Sam, just leave me.
I'm so sad.
but funny.
Right?
Yeah. Have we got another one that's like really lighthearted that we can like end on?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to like skim through them.
I can't scroll through them because it means that I'll click on it and you'll hear, hey guys, it's Sam.
Right. I feel like we've covered like so many of these, like the topics.
Well. Quick, someone ask us a really quick question. That's really fun. A question said, would you have stayed behind to fight at the Battle of Hogwarts? No.
Probably not.
That's a really
yeah, I mean, are you a wizard? Then probably, because all your friends are there. But like
if I'm a wizard and I don't have chronic fatigue, maybe, but if we're talking about as a Slytherin with chronic fatigue syndrome, like I'm there to save myself.
Be like, bye.
Yeah, I'd but see you later.
See you later.
I think, yeah. But I think that's the thing though, we always think that we'd like be really brave in certain situations, and I'm the first to admit that I wouldn't. And I try and help people, but I'm not going to throw myself like in danger for somebody. Except for maybe like my cat. And that's it. And even then I'd be like, I'm not sure.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. It's just so funny.
I guess we can end on this one. Well, I don't have it was like to describe your friendship using a song, but I don't know song titles. So like I can't really answer that question.
No, I can't either.
Because I'm just not.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain songs that we've talked about and that are like our fandom songs, you know? But I don't think there's any song. It's very difficult. It is very difficult when you actually don't spend physical like time together, because it's not like we've ever like, you know, been in the car and this song's come on. It's like, oh, do you remember when that song played? And
it's like your friendship song.
Yeah. We don't have that. One day we will. And I think that will be a great day, which we've always talked about, haven't we? Which I think is really funny, and people should probably know. Literally, although we say all this stuff about, you know, you don't need to go to all these events, and we do believe that, we talk about meeting on such a regular basis. I feel like I can see the vlog in my head.
Oh, I'm filming it.
Like I'm filming it in my head, and I can see it exactly. And like I can just imagine being in this car and being like, I'm on the way to the airport, either to pick you up or to go, or who knows what. And I see it so clearly in my head. And it's
one of those, like, I would be running because you can't run, and I'd be like running across the airport, and sometimes I'm like, Gerald, film this, and you know, we're like sobbing, and that's pretty much like how it would go.
Yeah. And then right, I would take Sam to Nando's, which if anyone's from the UK, they will know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you're not, Google it.
We talk about
It's
Nando's all the time.
it's this really weird chicken place, and it has a really big reputation over here because people call it a cheeky Nando's. So they'll say stuff like, "Oh yeah, we're going to go for a cheeky Nando's," and there's a really weird description of it, and it's when you're talking really, really fast. And it's like, yeah, you know, when your mate's like, yeah, let's go here. And then you're like, no, let's go Nando's. And that's a cheeky Nando's. And I remember Voxering you reading out a whole script piece on that. And Gerald was listening and he was laughing so much. Do you remember?
He was like, what is, he's like, is she speaking English? And I'm like, yeah, it's just like an Essex accent.
Yeah, which I don't
like,
have.
Oh my God, it was so funny. So yeah, when I go over the UK, it's going to be Nando's. Even though I'm vegetarian, but like we both are vegetarian.
They do really nice stuff though. They do like avocado stuff and halloumi and everything. Right. And I think when this is almost like a question we ask ourselves, like what would we want to do when we do meat? Actually, it was kind of like a question we've just like put on ourselves. But there's so many places that like restaurants and stuff that you guys have, and quite often you message me and you're like, oh, you probably have this, and I'm like, no,
no. And you're like, what's a Chipotle?
Oh my God, I had that sauce. I had a sauce of it today, and I don't even know what it is. And I just put it on my salmon. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. So I still don't know what it is, but I ate it and it was nice.
It's delicious. So I think we have a good, this is my own question. Since it is our Booktube anniversary, do we have any like goals moving forward? Do we have any things that we want to see? I was
literally going to say the same thing.
Yeah, like that's our wrap-up question.
I was thinking like where would we like to be this time next year? That's what I was going to.
Or like what kind of goals do we have for ourselves and reading and Booktube, but Booktube related mostly stuff.
Yeah. You going to go first or should I go first?
I can go first. So Book Nut Fest is coming up, obviously. Everyone, I wish I could talk about it. Yeah. So my goal is for it to be even bigger next year. We have so many things that Mari and I have put together for this year, and it's like a really, really good first year, but I really want it to grow and expand. We learned so much from planning it this last year that I think we can make it even better in future years, and we hope we can continue to get the support for it so we can continue to do it because it's like really exciting. And that's my biggest thing, I think. I don't really have like, I have channel goals in a way, but like I just want to keep doing it and keep liking it. I don't have subscriber goals whatsoever. Like I haven't had those since the beginning, basically, because it's just like there's no way to predict that. So I don't have any kind of like number goal I want to get to.
Point, it's a goal that you can't actually reach. It's a goal that you can't work towards because a lot of it is based on luck.
Yeah.
And it's about, you know, one person likes a video and then they might see it and it's rolling, and actually there's nothing you can do to increase that number. So actually it's quite an unhealthy goal if you have a goal for an amount.
There's nothing you can do, and it's just kind of like it's nothing that you can really tangibly work towards. So I don't have anything like that. And I'm hoping, well, no, it won't be in the next year. I was gonna say I'm hoping to read more, but I won't be done with grad school until a little after this time next year. So but yeah, I'm just continuing to read the books that I'm liking, culling these books that I don't need on my shelves anymore. That's like the big goal for currently. And just be here same time next year.
Yeah.
I don't have very concrete goals with that.
I think for me, and actually it was a question that I had kind of on my video, but it was more about me, so I didn't really ask it because it's like, here's a question and I'm going to answer it. So it's kind of like I can answer it in this kind of way. One of the questions I had was about my book, and it was like, you know, when's this going to happen and everything. For me, although it's Booktube, it's still writing and stuff. For me, this time next year, I would like to be in a position where I can film a video and say it's coming. Like I can film a video and say I've been picked up by like either an agent or a publisher, and that is quite a tight goal because even though I've been doing it for years, I know it's not at that stage yet. But yeah, for me, I'd love, like video wise, I would love to be able to film that video and either say I've done it, it's done, and now I'm looking for an agent, or I've done it, I've got an agent. Who knows where on that scale it would be, but I really want to have that video on my channel. I want that to exist. So that's something I can work towards. I think the other thing is I want to film more creative videos, because the problem that I have is I've got such a creative mind, and because I, you know, script writing and all that sort of stuff, I get so many good ideas for videos and I don't have the energy to film them. And I think what I'm learning is just because I can't film it on this huge scale that I would do if I was completely able-bodied, I can still do it. Just maybe not with all the bells and whistles, you know?
Yeah.
So I think I want to do more things like that. I want to film more videos that are more videos that I've had in my head for a long time. There's a series of videos that I've had in my head since December 2015, and I haven't yet done them. And I really, really want to do them, and they're writing focused. So I want to do more writing based videos. I think, and I want to get into more of a schedule. I want to be able to upload and have like 4 videos always ready to go, because that will give me a lot more freedom in terms of like being able to film the videos that I feel well enough to film. Because the reason I don't film a lot of reviews is because a lot of the time I just don't have the mental energy to be critical. So filming something like a tag or, you know, is just easier. So I want to do that. But I think, again, just like being in the same place, not be in the same place, but, you know, still be making videos and stuff. And I don't see why there's any reason why I wouldn't be. So
yeah, I'm very content with my channel and where it's going. If anything, I think, I know we talked about events a little bit, but I want to attend more like creator events. So like never before have I really wanted to attend VidCon, but I want to attend VidCon for the creator track. Not for like meeting up with people, not for any of that, like the creator track. You know, BookNet Fest is very much focused on the book world, but also the creative side of things. I also would like to attend some of the big sci-fi fantasy conventions. So like, I think Worldcon and stuff like that, like those are big, not just industry stuff, but like fandom-y based, like those kind of wider scale events that I feel like I could learn a lot from, or something I want to attend more.
I'd love to be able to go to like more bookish events, you know, like individual sightings and stuff like that, because that's stuff that I find really difficult. And I think something that I find very difficult as well is if I do those things, I'm very, very conscious of filming them, because then I don't want people to be like, oh, she says she can't do this and then she can do that. And that's a topic for a whole nother day.
And they just don't see that like 10 days after you're like in bed, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what I want to do is probably try and lose as much kind of worry that I have, because I get so many like ideas and I know how difficult they'll be to film. And I know that people don't see that. They don't see kind of when you turn the camera off, you know.
And the image that, you know, again, even if we're not being fake, but there is a certain thing where like you guys, I think I showed my Snapchat last night, you guys just see usually these parts of my shelves and the rest of my office was just a massive shithole. Like you don't know.
You know when you play a video game and you have that boost button?
Right.
I feel like when I'm filming videos, I'm pressing the boost button and then it stops. And so it doesn't mean that the me that you see isn't real. It is, but it's just like right now I'm using my boost button, and when this finishes, I'll be like, oh my god, my throat hurts, and I'll get a cup of tea and I'll go to bed and I'll have to rest and I'll probably go straight to sleep. So, well, maybe not. But
just hang out and watch Love Island.
Yeah. Oh, it's on right now. I'm so excited. And I think it's kind of, I want to try and lose that fear a little bit as much as I can, you know. But I think the main thing is, although I'm not focused on subscribers and that sort of thing, there's a lot of videos that I want to make that are unique to my channel, and I need to get off my butt and do them because I have these ideas, but I'm not following through with them. So that's probably the biggest goal that I have for myself. And I don't think it'll be next year as much as I want it to be, but I would really, really love one day to be able to be like, Sam, I'm going to be able to come to like BookNet Fest. That would just be amazing. Like, to you know, like how you've been like announcing speakers and stuff. I'd love it to be like such a secret, and then suddenly it's like, yeah, I'm going. Like that would just be the best thing. So that's maybe not next year, but then year after or something like that. I just think that would be so amazing.
Yeah,
because that'd just be so great, because it's a great event, and also I'm like, this is my friend's event, and I'm here. So yeah. So basically, both of our goals for the next year are do more like fun, cool shit, and keep doing what we're doing, and we'll be here next year. Yeah, nothing heavy. Yeah, because it's all supposed to be fun. Yeah. So thank you all for joining us. We appreciate having you. It's been so much fun, and I just love all the questions, and I love that people care enough about our friendship to watch this, because it's not like we're talking about a book, we're not talking about, you know, a specific topic, we're literally just talking about like us, us our opinions on booktube and books and friendship. So if you've watched this and you've watched the whole thing, well, even if you haven't watched the whole thing, but if you've watched the whole thing, like literally give yourself like a clap on the back, because we appreciate you. So thank you so much. Thanks guys. See you later. And hopefully next year. Same time next year. All right, bye guys. Bye.